Of course, we've been watching the live coverage of the acceptance of Ifeanyi Okowa. He's accepted the vice presidential ticket presented to him by Atiku Abubakar, and he wholeheartedly made that acceptance, publicly acknowledged Atiku Abubakar for that, as well as the National Working Committee, and has also pledged his loyalty to take the country forward. He stressed the importance of the need for the PDP to return to power, and also thanked Atiku several times for finding him worthy for being on the ticket in the midst of individuals who are just as qualified as he is and even overqualified. He also thanked the governor of Akwa Ibom, Bauchi, and Edo State who were present, and has vowed to continue to stir this on. We bring in analyst, Arise News analyst Emmanuel, Efeni, and Sumner Sambo right now. Sumner, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
No trouble. So we're going to hand it over to you now. Of course, we could see all the smiles and a lot of camaraderie in the room. We got a sense of unity from that acceptance speech on the part of Ifeanyi Okowa. Over to you. What's your analysis of the event?
Well, this is a very good process for the People's Democratic Party. As the main opposition party, it has to be seen to be showing leadership, and it has done that by first unveiling its vice presidential candidate, even before that of the governing All Progressives Congress. So it's a very good win for the party. And of course, the choice of Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State is a very good one. I mean, just like the candidate himself, Atiku Abubakar, has said, he was presented a list of 3 persons, and that's Governor Ifeanyi Okowa himself, and then Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, and of course we have Governor Emmanuel Udom of Akwa Ibom State. Now, if you look at these 3 gentlemen, you will discover that Ifeanyi Okowa actually stands tall, and it's a very, very good pick because he has some very good experience from the federal parliament, having been a former senator, a non-serving senator he is at the moment, like they like to be called. And he is someone who has actually got a lot of reach. I mean, don't forget, before he won that Delta North senatorial election between 2011, he had to defeat the wife of Ahmadu Ali, a former national chairman of the PDP. And so right from there, he has come into full limelight into the national politics of the country, having been seen that even when that primaries was put away because of the towering status of Ahmadu Ali as a former national chairman, when it was conducted again, Ifeanyi Okowa defeated the same person again, Maryam Ahmadu Ali. And so that brought him into limelight. And of course, he's been a former commissioner in Delta State, and when he was in the Senate, I covered him personally, and I could see his activities. Having been in the Senate committee in charge of health, and how he was, almost everywhere. And he quickly earned the trust of then President of the Senate, Senator David Mark. And with his coming to Delta State in 2015 as the governor, he's been able to transform the state to the best of his ability, though a lot of critics have come hard against him because of the loans he's been taking of recent. But he has said that those loans are actually very needed to be able to promote better infrastructural development and growth before he is able to hand over to his successor. Now, if you look at the geopolitics of it, the thinking of those in Governor Nyesom Wike's camp was that he would be the right person to take, because if you want to win elections in Nigeria, you have to look at the voting population from 3 key states. You look at Kano, you look at Lagos, and of course, you look at Rivers. So they were promoting that idea that, look, it's just best for him to be selected. But if you look at how the office of president and vice president is, the presidency, you will discover that throughout the history of the country, we've always had presidents that want people who don't have towering political stature like themselves. And that's why you see when we had that issue between 1999 and 2007, there was a lot of bickering because Olusegun Obasanjo coincidentally had Atiku Abubakar as his vice president. And Atiku had a formidable stature politically, having come from the patriotic front of late Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and then having been the leader of the People's Democratic Movement that inherited the structure of the late Shehu Musa Yar'Adua. And it was through that PDM political family that Obasanjo got the right support to be able to become president. Now, if it was left to only Obasanjo himself, he wouldn't have picked an Atiku Abubakar. But because Atiku Abubakar had a formidable structure to be able to help him deliver the presidency in 1999, he had no choice than to pick him and pick his party structure along. But what was the end of that exercise? You could see that from 2003, Obasanjo has seen how strong politically Atiku was, and he tried to cut his influence. And since that scenario, in the return to the Fourth Republic, most of our presidents have always wanted to pick people who are not so strong politically, and then of course to pick people who are governors because of the strength of the governors. Now look at Governor Goodluck Jonathan. Then he had to be picked to support President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, then candidate Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, because the feeling was that he wasn't so strong, and of course he wouldn't be able to give him some troubles. And then when whatever happened, you could see that Goodluck Jonathan himself had to go for Namadi Sambo in the same PDP, who wasn't so strong nationally, and then in terms of party structure. And then of course Muhammadu Buhari himself, when he got into power, now in the APC, you could see that he had to get a Yemi Oshibanjo that's not so strong politically, structurally in terms of politics, so as to be able to help him concentrate on economic policies and not to be distracted by the polity. And this is the same thing that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has just done now, because choosing a Wike would have been too strong for him. And of course, Governor Udom Emmanuel, if you look at it, if we are actually to rate these three gentlemen, based on the need of the vice presidency and then the function of the vice presidency, I think he's done very well. And then a Wike would have been too strong for him, and then an Udom Emmanuel would definitely have been third, just the way things are.
All right, that's actually some great insight for us. Thank you for that, Sumner. I'm going to take it to you, Mr. Efeni, your own analysis on the announcement of your statesman as the next vice presidential candidate for the PDP.
Yes, I agree with my colleague Sambo that indeed Atiku Abubakar has gone for somebody who is not so politically strong. But I can tell you that Ifeanyi Okowa comes with a lot of strength into that ticket. You only need to just go through that list of criteria which Atiku Abubakar highlighted to know the strength Okowa is bringing to this ticket. He said he must be a president in waiting. That must be music to many ears. But, Okowa has been at the executive level as commissioner, two-time commissioner, as secretary to the government of Delta State for 4 years. Then he has operated at the center as a legislator at the national level, as a senator. So that brings some experience to that office. Then he mentioned something. Must be somebody who is strong in education. If you look at what Okowa has done in Delta States, he has paid keen attention to education. In fact, something he did last year, a couple of years ago, establishing 3 universities at a go in Delta State, in a state that already had a state university. It tells you that he pays attention to education, because Delta State happens to be one of the educationally advanced states in the country. The yearning for a higher education among the youth of Delta is quite high. He addressed that, and many were thinking that, how come you are starting 3 universities at the same time? Of course, he gave the response that if you know the number of Deltans who write JAMB every year, they have good scores because they're from Delta State, they don't get admission. He had addressed that. So Atiku himself, a lover of education, he has one of the best private universities in the country, in the American universities, in Yola. Now, that is one. Then he said the person must symbolize unity of Nigeria, uniting the country. Of course, if you look at his main rival in this peak, Nyesom Wike, yeah, he's made some kind of divisive comments in the past, which may just haunt the ticket if he were to be picked. But Okowa, Ifeanyi, of course, that is an unadulterated Igbo name. So if there is some appeal to the Southeast, then Okowa is one. Then you also need to look at where he comes from. Okowa, of course, is from the Igbo-speaking part of Delta State, Delta North, or you call that area Anioma area. But when you even zero down, it's from the Kai area. Then zero down further, it's from the Owa area of Ika. And I just give you the history of Owa. Owa has its origin in Inri. Inri is in Anambra State. In fact, Inri is regarded as the most traditional part of Igbo land. And I'm sure a number of Igbos, that is where his forebears come from. The founder of Oyibo, the village, also known as Owa Oyibo, where Okowa comes from, was a certain man called Odogu. Of course, you know where the name Odogu comes from. The son of Ije of Ute Okbu, another village in Ika clan. Of course, he has his roots from Nri. So if it's about appealing to both the South-South and the Southeast, I think Okowa carries that. Ifeanyi, I can imagine the campaign posters in Igbo land, Atiku and Ifeanyi. I think the message will be very clear. There is somebody who is not likely to rock the boat. You cannot see him as, in fact, over time, is politics. You see that political aggression, but you also see calmness in him. And with that, he's been able to wade his way through even very difficult times in politics. Of course, how he went to the Senate contesting that ticket with the wife of a former chairman, tells you this is somebody with political grit. And he's been a very good party man. PDP through and through, he's not been anywhere, although you don't say that's a minus for those who have gone and come back, because of course you say that of the presidential candidate. But Okowa has been a very good party man, played crucial roles in party politics. He was the one that ran the show at the convention that produced the chairman after all the turbulence that preceded that convention. Of course, Atiku deliberately mentioned somebody who has little time for drama. You know where that message has been sent to. Oh. Little time for drama. Yes, some have said, okay, will he be loyal? Of course, he will be loyal, because they want to cite perhaps his recent departure from his political ally, James Ibori. But again, that is what it is. Because will that affect the votes in Delta? Not really. Because the governorship has been zoned to Delta Central, and Okowa delivered to the Urhobos, who were urging me all along to ensure that PDP produced an Urhobo candidate. So it doesn't matter whether it's a person Ibori likes or not, Okowa delivered on that. And for that, he will not only carry the Anioma, that's Delta State, along, he will carry Delta Central, the Urhobos, and of course, he's a very keen ally. He has his foothold also in Delta South, where you have the Shekiris, the Jaws, the Sokos. Many of his backers, staunch followers, are from that area, Delta South. So he's somebody who will carry Delta along. And of course, his role in Edo politics, in fact, he was the man on the ground when Obaseki had to confront, of course, the APC war horse in Adams Oshiomhole. No. He came there and ensured that they delivered Obaseki and the PDP in that election. Now, so he's somebody who is a forceful fighter politically.
Now, Mr. Efeni, allow me to interrupt you and bring in Emmanuel Ogidi. He's in our Abuja studio. He's a former PDP vice chairman, South-South. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsday. Now, I'd like to ask you that, considering the fact that this is Atiku Abubakar's 5th attempt to become the president of Nigeria, is it not undermining his chances by picking Ifeanyi Okowa, somebody who our political editor, Sumner Sambo, says is not politically strong. What's your take on that?
I beg your pardon. Who said that? That Okowa is an underdog or what? I didn't get you. You see, Okowa does not like to show off, you know. And but what you don't know about him is that he's a workaholic. If you come to Delta today, of course you know where I'm coming from. You know, the good thing first, let me thank our president in waiting, Atiku Abubakar, for finding our son worthy to be his running mate. I'll thank God Almighty, and then I will thank him. Because Okowa has done so much in Delta that you will not know. I know when you see the publications in the TV, you think it's all made up. A few months ago, we had the NIPR. They came to Delta State, and we took them around and saw a few development, and they were so satisfied. They addressed the World Press Conference, commending him. And I listened to the president in waiting on the criteria. The criteria shows the strength of a man who can be president. So why would somebody think that it's not strong? You see, I know that the other aspirants, they're also capable, which he also himself accepted, which is true. But when it comes to performance, I can tell you this: Governor Okowa is a workaholic. He's a strategist. But after all, the vice president, what is his job? He has to deal with the economy. He's the chairman of the economic summit. And you need somebody very intelligent, somebody who can listen. He has those qualities. He's calm. Again, he's human, so he must make mistakes. So, you see, I have worked with Okowa for so long, and I know him so well. I can tell you that the youth will be happy. You know why? Because in the state today, the youth are so happy because we have engaged them with all the programs. Apart from the infrastructure, we have done human capital development, which is very key. Yes, it's true we have security issues here and there, but it's out of his hands because he's just chief security officer in name. He's not in charge of security. But in spite of that, he's done his best. So I can tell you that if there's more you want to know about him, you can ask. I know it's a short program, so I don't want to go into it. I don't want to market him too much. But you see that the difference is clear. And I want you to also look at what the President Wike said, that the kind of person he has chosen today has the ability to be a president. That tells you he's done a due diligence on him. And of course, the party is there to back him up.
Very well.
I want to also thank the party. I'm not the spokesperson for the party, for information, but I'm privileged to be here today. And I want to thank Arise TV for giving us the opportunity. So I know in due course, the spokesperson of the party will come and say a lot. But talking about Okowa, that I know is very fit for the job, and is not going to disappoint us.
Very well said. Thank you so much. I want to confirm, is Sumner Sambo still with us?
Yes, I'm
Sumner, yes. Thank you so much. So, we're trying to keep this as balanced as possible. I'm just wondering what, how you think this pick for the vice presidential candidate will affect the pick, which what we expect to see sooner rather than later on the part of the ruling party. in terms of the same position?
Well, like I said earlier, Okowa is actually the best pick for Atiku Abubakar, considering the positions presented to him, because based on precedents, those who emerge as presidential candidates are usually very, very strong politicians. And as such, they want someone who complements them and not who goes into the position to struggle it with them. And so that's where the complementing part of Okowa comes in, and not so much of someone who is competitive for this same power that the president will be exercising if indeed this ticket eventually wins the presidency. Now, in all of this, we can see Okowa in the mold of an Alex Ekweme in the Second Republic. He's someone that has a capacity in terms of being an intellect, well-educated, a medical doctor. He's had experience at the executive level, at the state, having served as commissioner, and then he's had experience at the federal parliamentary level as a senator. That's the zenith of it, and having chaired, several committees. And not only that, in terms of the party, look at the 2018 PDP National Convention. I mean, Okowa was there in Port Harcourt discharging their responsibilities very well. And of course, that National Convention came out with an acceptable result by everybody. It wasn't disputed. And so it takes people who are well educated, who are calm, who understand the polity to be able to organize such functions. And so that's why I would say that based on the political tendencies that were presented to the presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, that's a Nyesom Wike and Ifeanyi Okowa, and then of course a Governor Emmanuel Udom. I think it just happens to be the best pick, and it will give the APC a good fight for its money, because the challenge is now on the APC to present a candidate that's more educated, that's more experienced than Ifeanyi Okowa. Now, if you take a look at the geopolitics, like Emmanuel Efeni, my colleague, said earlier on, it's a very good knife that enters into the the south-south and southeastern politics. Because when you hear of the name Ifeanyi, it bridges the gap on the calls for, Southeast presidency and vice presidency. Don't forget, this same candidate last time picked Peter Obi as his candidate, but this time around he's gone close by. Anambra and Delta State are very close. So it gives you the kind of bridge that he's trying to build within these two communities and then within these two ethnicities. And if you look at the APC and the search for a vice presidential candidate, the tempo will now be set higher. The template has been set higher. The parameters have been set higher. And so if the APC wants to compete in this 2023 presidential election very well, they just have to get someone who has a higher pedigree than an Okowa or so. But what are the votes that Okowa is bringing? I will tell you that Delta State plays a very key role in the politics of the PDP. In terms of delivering votes, it's one of the states that PDP usually looks forward to. Now, there's a challenge also to Ifeanyi Okowa, coming from the Deputy President of the Senate, having emerged as the governorship candidate of the APC. Now, this will further put pressure on Ifeanyi Okowa to ensure that he delivers his state and he doesn't allow the federal might of the APC to be used against him in his state. And so it will give him the capacity to want to show himself. And I can tell you that Okowa has acceptability in not just the southeast, he also has in the southwest, because he's seen as a moderate politician. You see that during the PDP presidential primaries, he took a neutral point at the end of the day to try to see how they can build a southern coalition that helps whoever emerges, whether from the south or from the north, to be able to position him or herself as a national figure. And I think by taking that position, it projected him well as a nationalist, and I think it would be good if Atiku Abubakar makes the best use of the vice presidential candidate now by also deploying resources to him And then Ifeanyi too for also providing the opportunities there for him to provide the resources that are needed, because it's not just coming on the ticket. You also need to bring resources and votes. And I think he has a political network with people like Ibori and all of that to be able to support him. His fellow governors who form the PDP Governors Forum, and of course those from the South, they are willing and able to easily support Ifeanyi Okowa than any other person.
Now, Mr. Efeni, some people expect the Labour Party's Peter Obi to make a strong showing in the 2023 election, and Ohanaeze Ndigbo has warned the Southeast not to settle for the position of Vice President. But with the emergence of Ifeanyi Okowa, do you expect that voters from the Southeast would tilt towards the PDP and neglect the directives of Ohanaeze Ndigbo?
Well, the directive of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, I think is something they're also looking at, taking a second look at, because Peter Obi, yes, it has been said, if he had not left the PDP, Atiku Abubakar would have been under tremendous pressure to pick him as his running mate. But he left, and is now the Labour Party presidential candidate. How well he will do remains to be seen. Yes, he has this popularity that is blistering on the social media. Those youths, many of them are angling to get their ticket, their PVC. But if you look at the chance of Peter Obi, realistically, this phenomenon, is it transcending beyond the South? The Southeast, the Lagos area, do you have that momentum in the North? Well, in order, he is not the subject of now, but those are questions to be answered. But for the Igbo agenda, what will be best for the Igbo? If an Atiku Abubakar, of course, the APC is not an option because they already have a Southern presidential candidate. If he wins, it means perhaps do it 8 years. After that, you say it will go to the North. So, but if you look at the PDP, that is the shortest cut for the Igbo to vie for the presidency, because if Atiku wins, yes, even if he does second 2 terms, presidency should be coming to the South, hopefully, because by then you'll be talking of 8 years of Buhari, 8 years of Atiku. That's just hypothetically. And there will be no contest, no debate about whether it should come to the South, in which case Igbos can actually stake a claim. You never can tell, it can be shorter than even 8 years if Atiku wins. So they are in a position to stake their claim. So where should they put their votes? In Peter Obi? Just make a statement? Labour Party making a statement? I remember somebody who used to personify Labour, when he went into politics. His comrades called him, "Comrade, why don't you use Labour Party and let us make a statement for once?" And that person, wise man, said, "Look, I'm not in politics to make a statement, but to win." The name of that person is Adams Aliu Oshomole. That is Labour personified. He never used Labour Party that was existing as a platform to get to power. He had to go to ACN then. Of course, with ACN, he was able to, yes, he did not win in the declaration, but they went to court. And he had the machinery of the ACN bigwigs. Of course, you know who is behind that machinery. Asari Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And they pulled all the powers. And of course, Oshomole became governor. So Peter Obi going to Labour, I don't think he has done his brand a lot of good. But as we can see, he has momentum. But to come to your question, if I were one of the leaders of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, my position would be, let's put our votes behind this Ifeanyi. It's our kids and kin, and Atiku, and we take it from there. Of course, for many Igbos, APC is not an option. Forget about the razzmatazz from the likes of Dave Umahi. I can tell you, for the average Igbo man, APC is not an option. So what David Umahi and others who are in the APC can bring to the table, so where should the Igbos be putting their vote? They should support Atiku, perhaps. That's where they will be looking towards. And a number of Igbo politicians, they don't say this publicly, but they say this behind the scene, that if the presidency is not coming to us in the south, then let it stay in the north. And the next time around, we'll be in a position to vie for it. So that perhaps is going to be the scenario. But Sambo mentioned Alex Ekweme, which now brings me to the history of those who nearly got it and never did. Yes, Alex Ekweme, ahead of the 1979 election, yes, Shehu Shagari had somebody in mind, a certain Dr. J.O.J. Okezie, who had been a minister of agriculture at a time. Politician from the First Republic is being, but on the eve, in fact, Shehu Shagari, according to the story told by J.O.J. Okezie himself, when I interviewed him many years ago in Umuahia, Shehu Shagari shook his hand a day before the announcement. J.O.J., tomorrow is your day. But overnight, voila, things changed. A certain Dr. Alex Ekweme, not a politician, no political experience, well-known, celebrated architect with a lot of money. The bigwigs within the PDP switched overnight, and Alex Ekweme became the vice president, the running mate. Of course, let's look at the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan scenario. Yes, after Peter, yes, a certain Peter Odili spent money going around the country to become president. Well, at the last point, he was told that you cannot make it because Obasanjo had already anointed Yaradua. But he promised him that, well, you will be the vice president. But Ebele Goodluck Jonathan, who was celebrating his ticket to contest for governorship for the first time when he left Yenegua for the Abuja convention, emerged because a certain Nuhu Ribadu went to the president and said, this man cannot be the vice president of Nigeria. And Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was picked out of the blues. So, over the last couple of days, we've heard Wike all over the place. But Atiku Abubakar had highlighted his criteria. The man who ticks all the boxes, happened to be Dr. Senator Ifeanyi Okowa. And they call him the vice president in waiting. You know these politicians. They anoint themselves even before the real day. I will not be surprised. Some will be calling Your Excellency the VP. Yes.
All right, so over to you, Emmanuel Ogidi, over in Abuja. Same question for you. How do you feel that the Igbo vote will go now, seeing as Peter Obi is on another ticket, and Mr. Okowa is definitely has been announced for today? How do you think that this will pan out?
I second what Efeni has said. Efeni has analyzed it. Now I understand why they say these days you keep a lot of record. Emmanuel Efeni, you have done so well. Boy, you are good. I appreciate you. But that's the truth. What Emmanuel Efeni said is the truth. We have, we share the same border. Each time there's a problem in Anambra, Delta State is always there to help. When there was this crisis, the Igbos and the Northerners had issues. When we created a space for the Northerners, they came to stay there. So most of the people in Anambra today live in Asaba. So we've been living together. And they know that, they respect that. So that's just what I want to add. When it comes to really voting, the youths I know will be galvanized. They will now understand what Okowa has been doing in the last 7 going to 8 years on youth empowerment schemes. The youth in Delta State have so benefited that they'll be very happy. If you see what about, I don't like to talk too much about Delta State, lest they think I'm just on a propaganda mission. This is not propaganda. Why don't you come and you see it? There are a number of people know it. They pass through Asaba all the time. They pass through. In fact, we have been living at peace. So the Eastern vote, I'm very sure, I'm convinced, Because we have now reassured Nigerians, especially Southeast. If you remember the other day, Professor Odenta, when he was talking in one of those programs, he said, if we don't zone it to Southeast, then it should go to Northeast for the presidency. Now the Northeast has the president now. So Delta State, which is South-South, which is very close to the Southeast, that have been working with the Southeast all these years. Of course, this is the time. I don't want to discuss all the other candidates. What I mean, our the APC and other things. I want to concentrate on how we have to strategize and we rescue Nigeria. That is our dream now. We need to rescue Nigeria.
The former PDP Vice Chairman, South-South, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. And of course, our political editor, Sumner Sambo, and Arise News analyst, Emmanuel Efeni. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on Newsday.